Normally, people ask me, where am I from? Because apparently I don't have a California accent, whatever that sounds like. And I tell them I'm from Michigan. I'm going to always represent Detroit, of course. And the next question I'll get is, what brought you to California? And I will say, oh, California, and this is the honest to God truth. California has always been on my list of one of the states that I wanted to live in. And I had a bucket list of three places I wanted to live in: New York, which I did; London, which I did; and then California, which I am. And I always tell them my journey of coming from Michigan to California after I returned back from the UK after finishing up my master's program. And I tell them, oh, yeah, I just packed my car and I drove here. And usually that's when I get this look of, what? You drove? And when I say, oh, yes, I drove and by myself. And it's just then the fluttering of questions just start coming. So in this episode, we're going to do a little flashback and I'm going to explain my journey from Michigan to California. Let's chat. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of My Solo Chronicles, where I'm going to go into, like I said, my journey from Michigan to California. Now, when I decided to move out to California as soon as I got back, it was like a few months before I really was for sure that I was going to do it. And I have an uncle. I have actually family members that live here in California. And my uncle was like, okay, now that you're back in the United States, are you going to stay in Michigan? Are you going to try to go back out of the country? Or are you going to eventually come here to California? And so after much thought or whatever, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to California. It was a few months of me being back. I had started back working at the hospital I originally was working at before I went to London. And I had just got a car. So I had to really think about, okay, how am I gonna leave this employer again, because they had been absolutely amazing with letting me come back and, come back to my old job. And what am I gonna do with my car that I literally just got? So I said, you know what? I actually have driven from one state to another. Back in 2014, I drove back from New York to Michigan because of my mom. And I wanted to make sure I was there to help take care of her for the 2 years that I was able to be with her before she passed away in 2016. So I was like, you know what? I've driven from one state to another. So I'm just going to drive to California. What harm can it do? So everybody was like, are you mad? Do you know how long it's going to take you to drive to California? I mean, it's going to take you at least, I heard so many limits or time frames that I was going to be driving from Michigan to California, right? So I heard it's going to take me 2 weeks. I heard it's going to take me 7 days. I heard, oh, it may take you half of a month. I'm like, guys, I got this. And I'm telling you, I don't let any negativity like pretty much deter me, because it's just like, why would I do that? If I'm going to listen to negativity and not have my faith in God, it's just like, then what was the purpose of even, you know, thinking about doing this? So, anyways, I was like, God is going to be my co pilot. I got this. So, my mom had already passed. So, like I said, she passed in 2016. And I was in Michigan for a little bit, besides going to the United Kingdom. So, on March 19th of 2022, I had packed up my car. I had finalized a lot of things, started transferring a lot of stuff over to California, and I hit the road. I got on the road about 6 a.m. in the morning because I wanted to get up and start driving like really, really early. I didn't want to be in the early morning rush hour because I was pretty much leaving in the middle of the week, the work week. So I didn't want to be in that rush hour. So I said, let me just get up at 6 a.m. I want to be on the road fully by at least 6:30, which I was. And what I did was I had people that would track my location through my phone. So they knew exactly when I stopped, when I started moving, where I was at, everything. Because again, you have to put safety first and foremost. You can't just up and do something. Even though I up and do things, I always have safety first and foremost. So I had friends, I had family members tracking me through my phone. My so I ended up going through literally 2.5 states within like less than 6 hours. When I tell you, when my feet hit that gas pedal, it was like lead. I was literally driving at a decent speed limit, but I still managed to drive through 2.5 states before I got to Nebraska. Literally less than 6 hours after I had left Michigan. It was so funny because when I stopped in Nebraska, because what I was doing was I would drive. I didn't gas up often. So my car is not a big car. It's a Hyundai. So it's almost a Honda. It's just a Hyundai rather is just like a Toyota Corolla, which is like my favorite car. And they hold gas pretty good. So I think I gassed up once right after I crossed into Iowa. And that was pretty much the only time I gassed up before I got into Nebraska. So I went from Michigan through Illinois, Iowa, and then halfway into Nebraska before I eventually stopped and got a hotel room because it was starting to get dark. I don't want to be on the highway driving in the dark. I wanted to really, really pretty much get some rest before I continue my drive on. And I'm going to tell you, in Nebraska, the speed limit was fantastic because in Michigan, on the highways, is 65. In Nebraska, is 70, 75. Oh, I was in heaven. So, I was gunning it. So I got a hotel room in Nebraska overnight. And then the next morning, I got up and I called my uncle to let him know exactly where exactly I was at. And he even asked me, he says, well, when do you think you'll get here? And I told him, I says, I don't like to put pressure on myself. I said, the latest I'm going to get there, I intend to be there by Tuesday. That was my thing. So I can't remember what day March 19th fell on, but it was already like the 20th, 21st. So it was like maybe a day and a half later that I contacted my uncle and was like, okay, I'm in Nebraska. I'm not too far from Colorado. And I told him, I said, the latest I would like to be there is Tuesday. So in his mind and in my mind, I'm going to get there no later than Tuesday. So the next day, I get up in Nebraska. I get up at 5:30, shower, eat, get dressed, and I'm back on the road. And I went through Nebraska so quick again because of that speed limit, which I totally love. I don't think I did under 70, to be honest with you. And I joke with people and I tell them I really think because the speed limit was more than 65, I was able to like haul it. So yes. So I crossed into Colorado, and let me just tell you, I had never been to Colorado. I had never been to Nebraska. I had never been through Utah. Those are three awesome states. Especially in Nebraska, there was this rest stop right before I got to the city limit of Colorado, where if you look across the highway or the expressway, you saw cows, and there was a lot of cows, and I had never seen that many cows before. And I was like, oh my gosh, again, it's that, oh, look, squirrel. So I'm just like mesmerized. And I was at that rest stop for a little bit because I was just so amazed by all these cows that were in the field across the way. And then I think something with this particular rest stop in Nebraska, it was giving you kind of the history of that area, which I thought was awesome because I had never seen that before at a rest stop. You normally don't get a history lesson when you stop at a rest stop because you want to get to the bathroom, you want to get back into your car, hopefully grab something from the vending machine and keep moving. So yeah, ended up driving, got into Colorado. Colorado tested my patience. And I say that even though it is a beautiful state. You saw snow, the roads were not bad, but I never knew how hilly the highways were. Only because you got cars struggling to go up these hills. I swear it felt like I was in Topanga Canyon. So my car was struggling, trucks were struggling, semi trucks. Other cars, small cars were struggling. And then after like maybe a half an hour, you see this sign that says slow moving cars need to get all the way to the right. I'm like, geez, thanks for thanks for letting us see that like well ahead. But yeah, went through Colorado, stopped at a rest stop there, and it was just beautiful at this rest stop too because you were literally in between these huge mountains. It was like you were down in the mountains at this rest stop. And I didn't stay there long. I just wanted to grab something to eat and hit the restroom real quick before I got back out on the road because I'm like now well into Colorado. And then it became a point where there was a stretch of Colorado where you're just looking at all this empty just fields everywhere, and it was beautiful. I found myself just turning down the radio and just cracking the window a little bit and just taking in the air and just the whole entire surrounding area. Driving through Colorado was just absolutely beautiful. It was amazing. So I crossed from Colorado into Utah. Again, like I said, I went through Colorado pretty fast because I don't think my speed limit dropped below 75. That's just how fast I was driving. And I mean, and there were cops. You know what? Just a sidetrack. So I was in Nebraska. Speaking of cops, and I didn't know what the speed limit was at that point because I thought it was 65 because in Michigan and I think Illinois, the speed limit is like 65. So I'm doing 65. This cop pulls up behind me and he puts his flashes on. And I'm like, oh, this is just fantastic. Now I'm about to get a ticket in a state that I don't even live in. This is going to go great. And he's like right up on me. And I was like, okay, let me just start getting over to the right. Cause I was in the middle lane about to go into the left. But then once he pulled up behind me, I said, you know what? Let me just move over. So I moved over all the way to the right lane. I'm about to get into the shoulder, get on the shoulder and stop my car because I'm about to get a ticket, right? He literally flies past me once I get over to the right. And then he just cuts his lights off. And I was like, he just literally forced me out the way. And I was just like, is this has to be a joke. So I continue on and I seen the speed limit. The only thing I could surmise is that because I was doing well below the speed limit, I was actually most likely holding up passing cars because I was in the middle lane, but I was doing 65. In that state, the speed limit is not 65. So I technically was going slow. So yeah. So anyways, that's my little side note. So crossover from Colorado into Utah. And this is where I stopped to get gas for the second time that I was on the road. And I want to say I had been on the road probably it had to be like 2 days. Yeah, it had to be 2 days. So I get into Utah. Y'all, Utah, oh my gosh. I didn't even stop at a rest stop. I just pulled over into I don't know what this area was, but there was like semis parked there. There was like a few other cars there. So I just pulled over too. I don't think it was a rest stop. It probably was. I don't know. And I got out and I was just, again, in awe. Utah, there was so many mountains. The rock formation, the colors of the mountains. Oh, I fell in love with Utah. I honestly did. If I was a camper, I would camp right where I stopped in Utah. So I stayed there for a little bit just to rest. Actually got out the car and I just wanted to stretch my legs because I knew going through this stretch of Utah, it was going to be a minute before I even got to a place that had a gas station, a rest stop, or whatever. And I knew there was a minute before I got into Utah, a long minute. But the good thing about Utah is the speed limit is 80. Yes, your girl loved that 80 miles an hour. I didn't even do 80. The highest I got, I think the fastest I was going was maybe 90. And asked me if I got pulled over by a cop. No. The only thing I will say with Utah is make sure your phone is charged up because there is no signal. You going through these mountains, and I like that with Utah as you're driving through, you do see signs that say something along the lines of no signal zone or something like that. So you're driving for hours through this part of Utah where there is no signal. So you want to make sure you got a full tank of gas, which I did, and you want to make sure that your battery stays on the car charger. Because even though you don't have signal, you still want to have, a charge phone. So again, that's 80 miles an hour speed limit. And it was just amazing. It was so great. I'm driving, I'm hauling it. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, Utah has been beautiful and spectacular. I'm done with these mountains. I'm done looking at these rocks. when, when am I going to see the sign that says "Welcome to Nevada"? Because I'm ready to get from between these mountains, and you see signs that say possible falling rocks. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm over this. The honeymoon was over. I ended up stopping. I could tell I was getting close to Utah, not Utah. I was getting close to Nevada because there was a stretch before you hit that. I guess the line that divides Utah and Nevada. I finally seen a gas station, and I said, "Perfect. Let me gas up again, hit the restroom, and then again, get some snacks or get something to eat or whatever." Because it was starting to get like dust. And I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to stop, let me be able to get ready to stop in Nevada at a hotel. So that gave me time because now I had signal. That gave me time to look at what hotels were nearby, what exit or whatever was nearby once I crossed into Nevada because I was going to get a hotel room in that state. Did all of that, got into Nevada, and I was literally on my second day. This is probably like my second day when I crossed into Nevada. And I got a hotel room because it had by the time I got into Nevada, it was dark. It was getting dark. So I got me a hotel room, rested up, got up the next day and I says, okay, why do I get the feeling I'm gonna be driving through Nevada for a minute before I get to California? And to me, California is a state that is huge, just like any other state, especially if you're driving. Most states seem like you're driving through them like forever. Georgia. It's just like, when am I going to get to my destination? That's all I need to know. So I get up the next day. I get ready because I know, okay, this is the stretch. Now I'm into my third day, which this would be early Saturday. I always hit the road about 6:30, so it was already Saturday. So I left on the 19th. Now we're into like the 21st of March. 22nd, 21st or 21st or 22nd, one of those days in March. I'm in Nevada. I get on the road, and Nevada's okay. Drive was okay. No problems whatsoever until I was getting closer to Las Vegas. Now, I've never been in a Windstorm, I've heard of them. I've never had to deal with them until that drive into Nevada. When I tell y'all, this dust was so thick, you could raise your window down and get a plastic bag as it's flying going over you and literally collect so much sand. It was that bad. And what signaled me to slow down or stop was the truck in front of me. It was a semi truck right in front of me. There was actually two semi trucks right in front of me. I'm okay. At first, I saw the truck braking that was in front of me, and I'm like, "Why is he braking? What is going on?" And then I seen cars starting to slow down. I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" And out the corner of my eye, I see like dust. That I was like, "What the hell is that?" I mean, and it was coming fast and steady to the point where I said, "Oh my gosh." So I started doing what everybody else was doing. I raised my windows up. I literally raised my windows up. I started braking. And at one point, everybody kind of slowed down. And this is when I could honestly say that my speed limit dropped to like below 10 miles an hour. It was so bad that it was not only like the dust storm that was coming through, but it was windy. You saw the trucks literally trying to control their automobiles. Like, because it was just, I'd never seen a truck sway the way these trucks were swaying. And I said, "Oh, this is not good. This is not good." And all of a sudden, I said, "Jesus, I know you my co-pilot. Please let me make it through this." And as quick as the dust storm came, the quicker it went. And everybody just went on its way. And I was like, wow, now I know what it feels like to be in a dust storm. And then, not to mention, the way my GPS was sending me through Nevada, it took me through Las Vegas, like the downtown part of Las Vegas. So by the time I hit Nevada, it was literally like, I guess, rush hour. And this is on a Saturday. On a Saturday. So I'm just like, oh well, I know what this feels like. I've sat in traffic before. Sit in traffic, and I was in traffic for a long time. And when I say long time, it was probably between 30 minutes to an hour. Just bumper to bumper traffic. I couldn't wait to get out of Nevada. I said, these people must be coming in for like some type of event or just a vacation, something. Finally got through that, drove a little bit, and to see that sign that said, "Welcome to California," was like a relief. Got into California and drove, and to me, it felt like I was driving forever. Literally, I was driving forever in California. California is a big state, especially the route that it took me, because I ended up coming in. It was taking me towards like the 10 freeway. That's a whole nother story in itself that we don't have that much time to get into. But anyways, got into California, was driving and driving and driving. I think I stopped one time, and it wasn't dark yet, but you could tell the sun was starting to set. And I said, okay, it's gonna be dark soon. Now I'm already in California. This is on Saturday. I get on the number 10, and then it takes me to the 110. Y'all, oh my gosh. The 110, I still have nightmares. I had never seen, I take that back. I've always heard about California's traffic. And I was like, well, I will never have to go through that. Well, guess what? I went through that. Any any road rage that I never had, it showed itself. I was like, what the hell is this? Most people wouldn't let you over. People were blowing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is about to be my life for I don't know how long I'm going to be living here. Because when I lived in New York, I didn't have to worry about driving because I walked or took the subway or the bus to where I needed to go. But here in California, I now have to drive. It wasn't this bad back in Michigan. I mean, yeah, you dealt with rush hour, but that's rush hour. At least you could get off on the side streets and didn't have to worry about traffic. So this set the tone for my driving skills since I've been here. once I got on the 110. I got to my uncle's house, and when I pulled into his driveway, it was 8:21. You know how I remember that time? Because I ended up playing that in the lottery. I didn't win, but I ended up playing it. 8:21. It literally took me 2.5 days to get to California. That's what I tell people. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't putting pressure on myself. Like I said, I told my uncle the latest I would like to be in California is Tuesday, which that day was coming up. But and I joke, I said, "Oh yeah, the speed limits helped me because I never did below like 70." Especially when I got into like, Utah, I was like hauling butt at like 90. But when I pulled into my uncle's driveway at 8:21, I called him and he goes, "Oh, what state are you in now?" I said, "State." I says, "Oh, I'm in your driveway." He goes, "What?" "I just talked to you yesterday. You said that you were going to be here by Tuesday." I says, "Well, I'm in your driveway and it's Saturday." I did this drive in 2.5 days. He was shocked. I was kind of shocked. And people that I tell this story to are always shocked because they can't believe it. So that's why I say, that's why I say when I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And believe it or not, I'm towards the end of January. I'm going to make this exact same drive back to Michigan to take my things back to my home state before I fly overseas. Let's see how long it takes me to get back to Michigan. It's going to be great. So yes, starlings, that is my story of my journey from Michigan to California. I will talk to you in the next episode, my moonbeams. So enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye.